Hellmaster EX. This award-winning system features the first single-engine joystick with digital electric steering and new autopilot capability. See Hellmaster EX in action at a Yamaha Outboard dealer or visit YamahaOutboards.com.
Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine. It is November 14th. These are your headlines. Seeing some good striped bass activity in the estuaries of Rhode Island and Connecticut. Also hearing about really good largemouth bass fishing this week and some really big tog coming out of eastern Long Island Sound. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
Before we begin, we have a few news items for you guys, and this one begins on a solemn note. Sorry to report that legendary surf fisherman and writer Frank Daigneault has passed away at the age of 87, leaving behind his wife of 65 years, Joyce, and 4 children, plus a whole bunch of grandkids. And anyone who's read the Fisherman magazine has read Frank's work. He's been contributing for pretty much the entire life of the magazine, and very well-known surf fisherman. And if when I look at his career, I think of him as sort of the thread that stitched together the old guard, as he called it, going back to the 60s and even to the 50s, and then the newer generation of surf fishermen that came after the moratorium. So he sort of, closed the wound of the moratorium and brought all of that knowledge, all those techniques and lures and plugs and all that stuff from the golden age of surf fishing and carried it over to those of us like me who started in the late 90s and early 2000s. And it was his articles, his 8 books on surf fishing that sort of paved the way for all of us. And for me personally, I'm certain that my career would not have gone the way that it went without Frank Daigneault. I read his articles, I own pretty much all of his books, I read them religiously as I was, coming into surf fishing, and it was him. He inspired me to write, and without that, I wouldn't have become an editor, and who knows? I'd probably still be slinging paint cans in a paint store somewhere. So, I owe Frank a special debt of gratitude, but I think all of us do in one way or another, any striper fisherman. So, just wanted to pass along the info and send thoughts and prayers to his family and acknowledge the fact that surf fishing will never be the same without Frank. Next up, ASMFC has announced the details of the meeting that will decide the fate of striped bass regulations going forward into 2025. The meeting itself is going to be on December 16th, but there's a few other details that sort of come up ahead of that. There's going to be what they're calling an informative webinar on December 5th. This is going to be at 6 p.m. Obviously, it's going to be broadcast online. This is going to lay out the options, so the different possibilities of the way they're going to regulate stripers going into 2025. It's going to break down, why they're being considered and what their possible impact will be. And there will be, I think, a segment for asking questions, but there will be no public comments accepted during the webinar. Following the webinar, there'll be a 5-day public comment period that closes on December 10th at 11:59 p.m. This is a big thing. This is a big moment in striper fishing. So it's important, regardless of what side of the issue of striper conservation you sit on. Whether you're a commercial guy, a recreational guy, a charter guy, or somewhere in between. It's important that your voice is heard, that you attend these meetings. So get your comments in by the 10th, and then the meeting where the decision will be made will be held on the 16th. It's going to be down in Arlington, Virginia, but it will also be broadcast online. And go to asmfc.org to get all the details of that. And I will be reminding you guys in these videos as it draws closer. Once again, I think it's an important moment. It's going to be and I think there's a landmark decision is awaiting. So we'll see what happens there. Next up, let's check in with the tournaments. I know the CKC had no new entries this week, but let's see what happened in the Dreamboat Challenge.
Time is running out and only 2 weeks left. Scott Waterman of Canterbury, Connecticut tried to add to his point total to catch Kyle Kraus of Cutchogue, Long Island, weighing in a porgy, but it was just shy of making the leaderboard. Ahmed Solomon has 19 points, Scott Waterman with 24, and Kyle Kraus has 36 points. To be part of the Dreamboat contest and win that Steiger craft powered by Yamaha and many other great prizes, you must be a Fisherman subscriber to enter. For all the details, how to enter, and the rules, visit thefisherman.com. There were no new entries in the Coastal Kayak Clash this week, so the standings remain the same. Todd Treones has 4 points, Bob Wagner has 9 points, and Justin Oser has 10 points. To be part of the Coastal Kayak Clash and for your chance to win the Old Town Sportsman PDL 120 fully outfitted by yakattack.com and other great prizes, you must be a Fisherman subscriber. For all the details on how to enter and rules, visit thefisherman.com.
Now let's check in with Jenni Ackerman. Here's her latest installment of Open Boat.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Open Boat. And today on this week's Open Boat, I want to take a minute to go over a story that really hit with me this weekend. To sum it up, this is what the fishing community is all about, especially with surfcasters. That's such a tight-knit community. And the big thing for me is I see it as a fishing community and not a fishing competition. So this story of people coming together and helping others get on fish really stands out, and I'd love to see and hear about more of these stories as the fall run continues. So let's get into it. This happened on Sunday in Ocean County. I was actually there, but I was late to the party, so I didn't see it happen, but I heard from a lot of the local legends were there, a lot of surfcasters were there. There was basically just one small pod of bunker, not really a whole lot going on because the past couple of days they really gorged on adult bunker, like blitz condition fishing, the first time we've seen that the fall run season this year. But going back to the story, a lot of the guys were just sitting around watching this school of adult bunker literally in the wash, and they're throwing metal libs at it. There's nothing really hanging out in it, and Shelly Karras is there. I've done interviews with him. He's a local legend surfcaster. He's been fishing for a very long time. And he knew what to throw to get a fish out of this small pod. So he goes to his truck and he gets a legal snag rig, which you'll see it has an egg sinker and it has a circle hook. And he snags one of these bunkers and pitches it out and he gets on a fish. So after that, he does it again and he sees, like I said, there's a whole group of people there. Little Miss Stella here, who we have a video of, she's starting to cast. She's getting better at casting. She can almost cast better than I can cast with a metal lib, working it in this pod. So Shelly passes the rod off to her and she gets a fish on this legal snag rig. So that's absolutely phenomenal. That's green flag number 1 with the fishing community there, helping little kids get on fish. But where the story really comes together, a little ways down the beach, there's a gentleman sitting there, mind you, in a very dapper Yankees jacket. Love to see it. Go Yanks. Sitting there, just working a rod while he's sitting, and Shelly, I talked to him. He says that he's walking with a cane. He's really struggling to walk on the beach in a cane, and he's casting from his chair, and he actually had a striper follow in his pencil popper. But they wanted to help this guy out. Clearly they saw that he was, struggling with, just physical setbacks. So everyone came together and they wanted to help him out. So Shelly set up the same thing, the legal snag rig with a live bunker, and a lot of guys were there that helped this guy just stand, and he got onto a fish. And you can see in the picture here, we have Andrew Carey, another awesome surfcaster, helping him fight this fish. And they bring it in, and they have this beautiful picture of just a very nice, healthy, chunky striped bass hooked right in the corner of its mouth. That's what the legal snag rigs are all about. And just looking at these pictures, you see the smile on this guy's face. You could tell it just made his whole day.
Great job, man.
When I heard the story on Sunday, and I'm getting a little emotional about it now, it did bring a tear to my eye. And the guys that were there, hanging out all at their trucks, grown men brought to tears by this, because that's you know, that's just something that everyone should be doing. If you see someone out there that's struggling or they're just not as capable as you are with fishing, help them out. Like, I always look for, especially with blitz fishing, there's a lot more people out there. If I see a kid that like can't cast into where the fish are or anything, I'll literally cast my rod and hand it off to them. And having them hook up and seeing the smile on their face is like the best thing ever. Literally, there's times, and I heard this from everyone who was there on Sunday, where they would rather have that one fish that they see like that guy catch than catch 1,000 fish to themselves. Because where if you're catching, maybe like you have a day where you caught 20 fish, okay, that's a good day. That one fish that guy caught could be the fish of a lifetime. That created a core memory when not even just him, but everyone who was there to experience it. And that's a lot of good karma. And that's something I want to see continuing on with the fall run season, or just fishing in general. Be the change that you want to see. That's my favorite quote. Help others, help them get on fish, help them with lures or anything that they need set up. If you see someone and you want to help them, like, just please do it. Don't just stand there and just flex that you're catching fish. Help others around you. That's the biggest thing with being part of the surfcaster fishing community. You know, you could act all like tough and hard and stuff, but there's a difference between the people that just catch fish for a living and the difference between people who help people catch fish for a living. That's a big thing that I'm all about. And I really hope that as the fall run continues, more of these stories start to come to light. And if you want to share them with me, you can email me at jackerman@thefisherman.com. Share with me these stories because I want to hear more, because a lot of this should be happening more. More positivity out there on the surf, more helping others, and more group encouragement. Come together as a surfcaster fishing community and help others get on fish. That's the big thing. Be the change you want to see. I love to see it, and we should be seeing more of it. More positivity out there in the fishing community. So that's that. Next week, we're gonna go back into the Surfcasters Challenge, but if you wanna get a head start, I know a lot of you guys have adult bunker out there. You're gonna wanna be throwing one of these. So that's your hint if you wanna get a head start, and go out there and be mindful of the people around you. If you see someone struggling or trying their hardest to get on fish, help them out. It takes 2 seconds to help someone out, and if they get onto a fish, it's the most rewarding experience, not only for just your life, but for their life too. So help others and be the change you want to see. And I'll see you guys out there on the surf because it's getting really good. So look for the pink beanie.
Now, until December 31st, Tsunami is giving away a Salt X waterproof backpack when you purchase a new Salt X2 reel. With its 19 seals and machined aluminum frame, the rugged Salt X2 can conquer any fishing condition you may face. Check out the QR code for all the details.
And now we'll talk quickly about the giveaway, which is ongoing. We're going to give away a flat glide needlefish and some NLBN paddle tails. I had a few people ask me who the runner-up was to the last one. I talked about how I had a photo figured out pretty much for the entire contest, and then someone kind of slid in at the last moment and changed my mind. So that runner-up was Mike Collins with this 51-pound striped bass that he caught off of Block Island. I think it was back in early September or maybe late August. Another photo that to me really exemplifies the New England fishing experience, and that other one just had a little bit more pizzazz to it, I guess. It was a little, just the composition of the winner just kind of grabbed me a little bit more than that one. So still, congrats to Mike on an amazing photo and an awesome fish. And quick rundown of how this whole thing works. You just got to send your photos in to me at danderson@thefisherman.com or text them to the number on the screen. Give me the pertinent details like who the angler is, where it was caught, how big the fish was. We'll get you in the contest. We'll probably get you in the magazine. We'll get you in the report. And, if you compose a really great photo, you might win. This one's going to wrap up on January 26th. So that's the last Wednesday in January. So you've got, almost 3 months to catch that winning fish and shoot that winning photo. Get them in, and we'll see who wins. Moving over to the reports now, striper fishing in Maine and New Hampshire is pretty much over and done with at this point. We are seeing some freshwater stuff going on. I saw a pic online of Evan Camoan, one of our writers, and someone who I consider to be an up-and-coming elite angler with an awesome splake. So I just wanted to show that photo. If you don't know what a splake is or are interested in learning more about them, you can actually read Evan's article, which was in the February 2024 edition. All about that species and some of the other, salmonid species that can be caught in southern Maine. It was a really great read, so check that out. And dropping down over the border now into Massachusetts for the first time in a long time. We're not going to check in with James Jukes. We're going to be checking in with his successor. This is Kevin from Surfland Bait and Tackle. Here he is.
Hey guys, my name is Kevin. I'm from Surfland Bait and Tackle on Plum Island, Massachusetts. I'll be taking over the reports now from Jukes. I hope he enjoys this journey to South Carolina and all the fishing they have to offer. I'll be reporting on Plum Island, the Merrimack and surrounding areas. And onto the report, there's still some striped bass around in that 20 to 24 inch class. There's been a couple 30-inch fish caught, not many, but if you put in your time, you can find them. And then freshwater rise, upriver, plenty of carp to be caught on pack bait, boilies, hair rigs, whatever you like to throw at them. They've been biting pretty good. And then pike fishing, a lot of guys been throwing jerk baits and other minnow baits for them. Been doing decent, but my favorite technique on pike fishing is big old glide baits. Just seeing them come up and bow, smoke it is probably one of the best things you'll ever see in freshwater with a large fish. And then there's been white perch caught in different streams and estuaries around the Merrimack on sea worms. Some guys are catching them, but it's been hit or miss. There's been smelt seen in the Merrimack. I don't know how the fishery's been. I don't think it's been what it's like, what it used to be, but I mean, it's worth a shot if you want to go try it. There's been some mackerel caught up in Gloucester off the State Fish Pier if you want to sit in the cold and catch a mac and smoke it at home or something. And then this time of the year, I like largemouth fishing. This is when I put away all my surf casting gear, all my plugs, all the wetsuits, all that stuff goes away, and I whip out the Huddleston and the big glide baits. I love throwing Huddlestons for largemouth. It's probably one of the coolest things, seeing largemouth bass eat an 8-inch swim bait that weighs 4 ounces that I'm bombing out into the middle of a lake. It's pretty cool. Trout fishing's been awesome. If you like to catch trout, rainbows, or you can target some of like the broodstock browns and brooks that they've been putting around. I mean, fishing is good if you switch over to a different species, freshwater wise. Saltwater, it's been slow, unless you go offshore and catch pollock or cod. But I hope you guys enjoy my report, and I'll be seeing you soon.
Now, leaving the North Shore, going down down toward Boston, Danny Parma told me that they were not able to get out this week. It was just too windy, so no new details there. He said he's hoping that they're going to get out a few more times, so hopefully we'll have another video from them next week. What I've been hearing from the South Shore, I'm sure extends up into the Boston area, and that is that the striped bass activity has really started to drop off. There are still fish around, don't get me wrong, but things are slowing down, and they're slowing down quick. If you live in that region and you still want to try to get yourself in on a couple more stripers, the place that I would concentrate on is the east end of the canal and the area adjacent to the east end of the canal. The canal has a lot of attraction factors. You know, not only is it a shortcut, which is why they dug it, but it also sort of carries this plume of warmer water from Buzzards Bay into Cape Cod Bay on every east tide. That's sort of like a warm blanket out there. It's going to draw some of these fish in. Canal also holds a ton of bait, which is another reason why any migrating striper may want to, sort of make a turn into the canal. In addition to that, we have these two big jetties that flank the the entrance to the canal, and that's another thing that's going to sort of concentrate movements of stripers as they, sort of run into the beaches, and then, sort of they're going to collect in those corners. I've seen it happen year after year. That's a really great area to put some time in the late season. So that's something you can do for sure. Out on the outer beaches, we've seen a few striped bass moving along those areas. Most of these fish are small, 20, 24 inches, something like that. I've heard of some up to like 32 inches, and no one's catching big numbers. It's, this guy got 1, that guy got 3. Some guy down the beach, I saw him catch 2, you know what I mean? So small numbers, small fish, but there are still some striped bass moving along those beaches. The big thing on the Cape right now is the freshwater fishing. I was talking to Dan Southwick. He had a really great week this week with several big fish. Biggest one was up over 7 pounds. He said he got some using paddle tail style swim baits. Specifically, he was using the Real Prey stuff that's made up in New Hampshire. These are great baits. I have tons of them myself. But the thing that was really getting it done for him was what he classified as dragging a jig. So basically, throwing the jig and pig or jig and plastic and just inching it along the bottom, not even really hopping it. If you've read Bill Murphy's book, Giant Bass, he talks about a technique called stitching, where he kind of grabs the line and only moves his bait as far as one rotation of his hand will advance it. So I think this is sort of a variation of that. Sometimes those subtle approaches are really the thing that attract the big fish, and that seems to be what's happening right now. In addition to the largemouth bass fishing, we're also hearing about really good trout fishing across the Cape. The Cape's famous for its late season, winter times trout fishing. I cash in on it several times every year. And right now is probably one of the best times to go, so I highly recommend heading out there if you just want to get the rod bent. You're going to find a little bit more striped bass activity along the Nantucket Sound beaches. The togging has been really good throughout the Elizabeth Islands. We've actually seen an increase in size, so a lot more bigger fish this week as the guys fishing the area are moving a little bit deeper. So that's definitely something you can concentrate on. There's also still pretty good numbers of bonito around, which is kind of amazing. So you've got many different species opportunities in that area. Moving through into Buzzards Bay, togging continues to be solid in the eastern half of Buzzards Bay. Not as many bigger fish unless you're out by the Elizabeths, but still good fishing. And then as we get up into the canal's still producing fish, which is one of the reasons why I highlighted it as a good late season opportunity toward the east end. We're seeing mostly smaller fish, 20 to 30 inch fish, and trending more toward the 20 inch end. But at this time of the year, if you put in a lot of time, especially if you do some jigging toward one of the ends, the east or the west end, you have the opportunity to find some much larger fish. There will be runs of fish that go through that go mostly unnoticed, small pods of bigger fish, where you might get 5 20-pounders in a tide or something like that. So the hardcore canal guys have still got the opportunity to get a decent fish. And then heading out to the western end of Buzzards Bay, togging's been good. There's been a pretty good number of codfish around. And that's where this whole striped bass and the estuaries thing sort of begins, from like Paden out to the Westport River and going out from there into Rhode Island. There's still decent numbers of stripers up inside. There's not like crazy numbers, but that's probably your best bet if you want to catch a striped bass right now. And that's what I have for you guys in Massachusetts this week. Crossing over into Rhode Island now, we'll check in first with an East Bay report from TJ Kopecky.
Thanks, Steve. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. We got the fastest 3 minutes of fishing in the East Bay. And here we go. We're going to start in Mount Hope Bay, and my friend Larry checked in with me. And he's been kayak fishing right from the boat ramp at the end of Anawamsket in Bristol, right inside the mouth of the Kickapoo, right out into Mount Hope Bay. He's been finding a lot of bass out there still. There's still a lot of birds working. I know it's mid-November. These fish are hanging around. There's a lot of bait out there. He's been using spoons, believe it or not, flutter spoons. And there's the handmade ones that he actually makes himself. So he's doing well with that. In Mount Hope Bay, pretty much all the way up into the Taunton River, you find those birds along the Lees River. There's just a lot of striped bass. They're not huge. They're a lot schoolies, all cookie cutters, but fun to catch still. If you can get a dead that doesn't have any wind out there. Moving up into the bay, there's been some birds working out in front of Colt State Park in between Prudence Island. Look for those birds. I heard they're moving pretty quick. They're just moving along with the bait. That's actually moving out of here. Into the Warren and Barrington Rivers, I did some fishing behind the American Tourister this weekend, and you know, it was a little slower, and I kind of suspected that because the water's cooling down a bit, and I just have a feeling that a lot of those fish, the bigger fish, have moved out of the river. I did catch a couple of small fish, about a foot long, and quite a bit of bait got robbed from you know, the little guys that just pecking away at it that, you know, can't get their mouths around the hook. So I think that that's kind of fizzling out now. There are still some bass in there. I haven't caught a bass in there in 2 weeks, but I did see some fish working, and I couldn't get to them where they were. But there are some sporadic bass movements into the Barrington River also. And my friend John actually was fishing on the bridge, and he got a couple of schoolies at night. So I'm going to get back out there at night once this wind stops, and the weekend's looking pretty good upcoming with highs net of 60. So hopefully it'll stabilize a little bit and the winds will die down. But for the East Bay, there's also been some good crappie fishing in Milford Pond. A couple of friends of mine have checked in with me and let me know that the fishing there has been pretty decent, and they've been doing well on crappie with a Castmasters and paddle tails. So all in the 3-inch range. So the crappie bite is actually pretty much heating up, and that's what I pretty much do all winter, is fish those ponds in Swansea. So if you have an opportunity and you're in that area, go give that a try. So for the East Bay area, we'll check in next week, and that's all we got. Tight lines.
The trend continues for the second week in a row, where the togging results are sort of spread out, you know, or sort of divided, I guess would be a better way to put it, between the guys that refuse to leave the shallows and the guys that are fishing deep. The guys that are refusing to leave the shallows are struggling to catch anything bigger than keeper size, and it sounds like they're even struggling to break 16 inches at this point. Out deeper, we're seeing a lot more bigger fish, and when I say deeper, I mean start at 35 and, you know, plan to maybe fish as deep as 80. So we're seeing a lot more guys transitioning away from the jigs and over to rigs at this point. But this is producing some much bigger fish. We're seeing, you know, fish up to double-digit size, and still very good bite by and large. The only thing that's killing it right now is just all this wind, which is keeping a lot of these guys off the water. There are still striped bass moving along this area, but these are sort of what I call dribs and drabs. So, you know, you're going to put in a lot of time, especially if you're a surf fisherman, to intercept these, you know, sort of transient schools. You got a much better opportunity to catch those fish by going to the other half of the state and fishing the breachways and the inlets like we talked about last week. Those continue to produce fish, especially at night for guys throwing plugs. So you've got that as an option. The good togging continues out into the Narragansett area, and we're still seeing sea bass and codfish action out by Block Island. For a little bit more on all that, let's check in now with Captain John Lee from JL Charters.
Hey guys, John Lee, Point Judith, Rhode Island. We got out a few times this week. The green bonitas that I was doing really well on have departed. The last trip out, which was about 4 or 5 days ago, we only got a few. We did get one real corker, my biggest greenie of the year. So that was fun. The blues are still around. The size seems to be dropping on those. Been a lot of wind, so I haven't been able to get offshore and do my deep drops on cod, sea bass, and tautog. So I'm just kind of waiting for these northerlies and westerlies to blow through. Hopefully next week I get a lull where it's kind of 5 to 10 knots, run offshore, see how that's going. In another few weeks, even though a lot of those fish, the sea bass, are going to be even pushing further offshore. I had some good tautog fishing, maybe 6-7 days ago, fishing fairly deep, 80 feet on those, 75 feet. There's still a lot of mackerel around. Those macks should hang strong through Christmas. Just a ton of birds around those mackerel schools. All sorts of stuff from scoters to alcids, gulls, gannets. This is a great time of the year to be just kind of taking it all in. There's just a lot of birds. There's porpoises. There's gannets. You know, you could run into a stray school of really big stripers. Anyway, we're going to keep charging along. Definitely been getting blown out lately. We're going to just hope for some hope for less winds. Have a good one.
For more than 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing: that nothing says no to fish bites.
On the freshwater end of things, we're seeing that good bass bite sort of bleeding over into Rhode Island waters as well. Saw Jeremy Campbell got some nice fish this week. Talked to a few other guys that got some good largemouth from various bodies of water in Rhode Island. And after the Veterans Day stocking, the trout fishing has been really good. And for a little bit more on that, let's check in now with Jeff Sullivan. Here he is.
What's up, Dave? What's up, guys? Jeff back to the weekly video. So this week I did a lot of trout fishing. You know, I've been bouncing, well, I've been here, there, everywhere, really. Been tog fishing, been white perch fishing, been doing a little largemouth, and I've been doing trout now since Rhode Island have stocked numerous places with rainbow trout and brook trout. I've been on my trout missions, and I'm going to be ramping up those as the winter season gets upon us. I've just been using a lot of inline spinners, a lot of Cleo spoons this time of year. I like spoon feeding fish. It's awesome. It's a fun way to catch them. And covering water is a key too. These trout get more active as the weather gets colder. And this wind just does not stop. It's been blowing out of the north for I don't even know how long. But that's okay because the trout chew in the wind and I use the wind as a tool. So with that being said, you know, it's been a really good bite this week, Dave. And I hope to stay on this bite and I hope the weather kind of gets a little better. It's been pretty cold, but what can I say? Can't complain. It's not snow, so I'm okay with that. But a quick little gear rundown is I've been using this Penn Fierce 1000. It's an awesome reel. It's like $74.99, I think. It's an awesome reel for light tackle applications, your trout, your panfish, stuff like that. I've actually caught stripers on this, which was really fun. And this Jig and World Optimus rod, it's a 5.6 ultralight. This thing is awesome. I carry this thing everywhere with me from now until April. So, yeah. So, same time next week, guys. I'm going trout fishing. Later.
And then heading out to the western part of the state, we've got, as we said, we've got striped bass moving along the beaches. We've got them sort of stopping at the breachways and the inlets, so that's a really good option at this time of the year. The wrecks in the rock piles have got tog, they've got sea bass, and a few codfish. And we've even heard about some bonito moving along that area. In fact, it's more than some. There's been a decent number of bonito caught along the South County beaches, and that's what I have for you guys in Rhode Island this week. Crossing over now into Connecticut, as we talked about last week, we're seeing a lot more bigger tog in the eastern half of Long Island Sound, and that was sort of capped off this week by an absolute monster, 23.75 pounds, caught aboard It's Only Money Sport Fishing. This was just an absolutely awesome fish, and if you want to read between the lines on this, it was caught on a light jig, so that fish was most likely caught in shallow water. So we do still have shallow water tog opportunities in Long Island Sound, so if you're a diehard jigger, that's where I'd launch the boat. You know, launch out of Pine Island or something like that and go fish the Eastern Sound. That's going to be your best bet. We are seeing some good striped bass activity moving up into the Thames River, moving up into Niantic Bay, moving up into the Connecticut River and the tributaries of that, and then continuing throughout the state. Connecticut has a lot of, you know, small holdover fisheries and has a couple of really big holdover fisheries, and it seems like a lot of these fish are, you know, sort of filing in right now. So you have opportunities for fish of all sizes. You could catch a really big fish, you're more likely to catch a bunch of smaller fish, but the bite has been pretty good by most accounts. And for a little bit more on what's happening around the mouths of the rivers, let's check in with Captain Mike Roy from Reelcast Charters.
Hey, what's up, everybody? For this week's fishing report, the stripers are still migrating through. They're mostly schoolie size, so they could be here one day, gone the next. But there are some good sized schools migrating through. Expect to see them going into their winter holding rivers by the end of November. The blackfishing is still pretty good. Expect the blackfish to start moving onto the deeper rock piles, but you still have a couple more weeks of blackfish season in Connecticut. I also heard some rumors of bonita in Rhode Island and off the Long Island coast being caught as well. So still some options for this week. This will be our last week. Sunday will be our last day fishing for the season. So get out there. Good luck.
Now let's head up the river and check in with Rowan Lytle.
Hello everybody. Definitely some more seasonably cool weather, dropping the water temperatures in the Connecticut River this week, setting up for a mild weekend. One of the most interesting things that's going on right now in the Connecticut is that the salt wedge is really far up because of the drought conditions. That means some of the coves and backwaters further south on the river that would normally be better for crappie, bluegills, yellow perch and things like that are producing more white perch right now than anything else, and I'm seeing a fair bit of that the couple times I've been out for panfish recently. And anytime I have targeted the normal white perch spots further down the river, they're certainly productive as well. So if white perch are your game, now's a pretty good time to get out after them. As far as stripers go in the lower river, it's slowing down quite a bit, but there are still some fish around. And these cooler temperatures are fairly amicable for pike fishing, so that's a perfectly good target. The largemouth and smallmouth has slowed down quite a bit. Finesse tactics are your best bet, and expect those fish to be moving into deeper wintering holes as we push through this transitionary period here into early winter.
Now we'll stop off in Westbrook and we'll check in with Matt Stone from Black Hall Outfitters.
How's it going, everyone? Matt from Black Hall Outfitters in Westbrook here with this week's fishing report. Some more temperatures normal for November happening. We've got some mornings tickling freezing, and then some afternoons, I'm trying to get to 50. Not bad time. Still a lot of good tog out there. I got an 8-pounder for the first time all year the other day. Bunch of small ones, bunch of keeper size fish. It does seem like they're starting to push a little deeper. I had most success in 40, some success in 20. So not to say there aren't still good fish, really shallow in your 8s to 12s to 15s. I always certainly start there and check and kind of work my way out. But yeah, they're going to start to move out as it gets truly colder into your mid to late November time frame. So stock up on those heavier jigs, stock up on your lead and your rigs if you want to chase them all the way until the season closes after Thanksgiving. But they're out there. They're still chewing, and a lot of times I find when we get this, kind of cold fronty type weather, that really fires them up. They put on the feed bag a little more, and there's also not as much competition. The porgies and things like that are kind of moving out. They're still around every now and then, but in general, that's kind of the only game in town right now. There's going to be some schoolie striper blitzes happening. You've probably seen some near beaches or some birds working and stuff like that. There's still a ton of bait out there, which is pretty wild. Big bait too, like 3-4 inch long bait. So might see some schoolies on them. Otherwise, get out there. It's all blackfish time right now, baby.
Heading west from the Connecticut River, a lot of the charter guys have either wrapped up for the year or had to stay off the water this week because it's been so windy. But at last check, the togging was solid on all the little reef systems and the big reef systems that sort of stretch out from there going out toward New Haven. Guys are getting some decent tog off the New Haven walls, and we've seen movements of striped bass, mostly on the smaller side, but a few better fish moving through those regions as well. And as we get further west, as we talked about last week, moving into the Housatonic River, this time of the year is a really great time to fish around the mouth and the lower portions of the river. We've got lots of fish moving in for the winter, and there's really no limit to what size you might find inside there. And for a little bit more on that and some of the other things happening out in the Western Sound, let's check in now with Max Finch from Fisherman's World.
Hey everyone, Max here from Fisherman's World with another local fishing report. This past week we seen blackfish in that 5 to 8 pound range. The shop leader this week is 8.6 pounds. So, you know, if you get one you think is bigger than that, bring it into the shop and you get a $100 gift card. We've seen some bass in our harbor or back bays, nothing really out front crazy yet. The only real local like out front blitzes we're hearing is off Long Beach and Stratford outside Bridgeport Harbor. Bridgeport Harbor's actually been really good. I've got multiple reports that there's been a lot of schoolies to fish in the slot and some over slot fish taken too. Your best chance at a big bass right now is fishing the mouth of the Housatonic or chunking some bunker on our local deep water reefs. There are some fish, you know, tipping the scales over 30 pounds this past week we've seen. You know, it's hard for a lot of people to get out with this wind, but when they did get out, we saw some really nice quality catches with also some big bluefish in the mix. The blackfish remains really hot in that shallow water and the mid to deep water bite too on our wrecks. You know, I'm talking to anglers fishing our deep water wrecks and then guys fishing shallow. It seems like they're doing a lot better. With that shallow water bite, we're starting to see a lot more shorts, but the action's still hot and heavy. Whereas the wreck fishing, you're getting knothead sea bass and, you know, blackfish up to 5, 6, and we've seen some double digits come over this past week. The porgy fishing on our beaches is starting to really slow down now with these colder nights. Guys from the boats are still doing well. I would say that 30 to 50 foot, you know, mark right now is really good. Remember to bring clam chum to really get the fish under your boat and really feel your bag limit. Thanks and good luck.
And that's what I have for you guys this week. Hopefully it's going to inspire you to get out there. I know it's windy, I know it's cold, but if you can't get out in the salt, at the very least get out in the fresh water. You know, we've got lots of stocked trout ponds which are producing fish. We've got some really good largemouth fishing over the last 7 days. You know, that's reason enough to get out there and bend the rod. If you're not a subscriber to The Fisherman, I highly recommend you head over to our website. That's thefisherman.com. You get a full taste of what we offer. We cover all the fishing from Delaware to Maine, salt, fresh, boat, surf, kayak, shore, paddleboard. It doesn't matter. We cover it all. It's $29.95 for the year, so it's the best $30 you can spend in fishing. You're going to get 12 paper magazines sent to your house. You're also going to get 26 digital editions sent to your email during the season from April to mid-November. You're also going to get digital access to all the back issues and our other 2 editions. So if you sign up for my edition, the New England edition, you'll get digital access to the Long Island and the New Jersey edition. You're getting 3 magazines for the price of 1. How can you go wrong? But if you go to the website and you're still not interested, it should be hard to believe, at the very least, give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube and hit that little bell thing right there so you get a notification every time we post something new. I appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.